Hi everyone and welcome to my review of George Miller's Mad Max in 1979. So here we are with another Mad Max review. Here it is, the very first Mad Max film, and of course, yes, this Blu-ray, it's on this Blu-ray set, which I just opened today. As you can see, the wrapping's still on there slightly. I have actually had this, new and sealed since 2014. I've never opened it. I've been meaning to watch it at times, I just never got around to it. It's been, one of my picks for the night at one point, many times actually, and it's just been brushed aside in favour of another film. I never thought actually that, I thought there was a chance that I wouldn't like these films, so maybe that was at the back of my mind, just kind of putting it off, and the fact that, I've always loved Fury Road, and yeah, I just didn't want to maybe jump right in and kind of thing. It just looked, some of the clips I saw of the film just looked like it could be a bit too much for me, on this occasion. And I really like satires and over-the-top films in general. But this looked, just a couple of clips I saw, just a bit too over the top and a bit too, yes, just a bit too much for me, a bit too bizarre. And yes, I watched it tonight, the first one. Of course, Mel Gibson is among my favourite actors of all time, actually. I love him in a lot of films, Lethal Weapon series, Braveheart, Signs. It's just an amazing actor, an amazing director, and this is one of his first roles, these early days, and very, very famous for this series, and this whole trilogy, is pretty popular. The third one, I've heard, is the least popular. A lot of people say it's really bad, but it's more of a cult film, that one. But this, this set comes with all three, and it looks really good on the front. So yes, I just thought, why not? I've recently rewatched Fury Road again, and I absolutely love it more than ever. Actually, I think it's a masterpiece. And of course, same director, so that enticed me even more. George Miller, who's done, he's mostly known for this series, and of course, Babe, films like that. Happy Feet he made as well, and pretty random, but yeah, he's mostly known for the Mad Max series. Of course, he rebooted it with Mad Max Fury Road, which is very, very rare for a director to do. And for it to be, more popular than the originals as well, which is quite, it is the case. There's no denying that. This one, is much more low budget, and it's set in the not too distant future. It's like a dystopian world, and in Australia, and basically Mel Gibson plays this, this officer, and he's kind of slightly built up at the beginning, and yeah, the main plot of the film, just focuses on this biker gang, really, that are shown throughout the film, and a couple of other things here and there, but it's mainly that, and then Max's family, and you got a final act where things, kind of culminate there, and I suppose it's going to lead on to the second one, in the way that he kind of drives, things that happen at the end, it kind of, I guess it seems like it's foreshadowing the second. The second one, is meant to be very much, I've heard, a lot further on, in the future. Certainly, in the actual wastelands and everything. This one was more just kind of very, very small towns. Kind of thing, low key. There wasn't much of a budget at all. And yes, this is praised as one of the best action films of all time. The second one, Road Warrior, even more so. But yes, when you think of best action films of all time, I always think of films like, Terminator 2, Indiana Jones trilogy, always at the top, and North by Northwest, films like that, and it's just many, many great action films. Probably about, at least 10% of my top 250 films are all action films in some way. Of course, the Bond films, so I love action films, and, I love Mad Max Fury Road. And also point out that I like classic cinema more. So when I talk about this film, it's got nothing to do with certain genres or anything I'm not into. I really wanted to love this film, and the whole trilogy. I was really looking forward to, in many ways, digging into. But here we go. I'm in the minority. I think this is a weak film. I did not like it, and actually, the first half of the film, 50 minutes of the film, I despised. I really hated it. Really unfortunate. I wanted to love this, or at least really like it. And Road Warrior needs to be, a lot better for me to actually like this film. To like, Road Warrior, the second one, because this really, I didn't like at all. Really, you open up with some decent action scenes. Actually some good action moments. But it's just very very over the top in the ways that I thought it could be, and just people screaming, kind of doing bizarre stuff, and just kind of just shouting constantly. It's just a very very loud film, but not in a controlled way, not in a way that is actually warrants how loud it is. Just people screaming a lot of the time, loads of cars and bikes and everything. But just this film, I won't say it has no energy. It has an energy, but it's wasted. I think it's too much actually. And it's kind of it's all over the place. It's not balanced out. The energy in the film for me, and it just goes too far, and it's just too much. It's kind of overload without any sort of control and any patience really a lot of the time for me. And it's not compelling most of the time for me at all. I got bored. I think the performances were mostly awful. Aside from the guy called Mel Gibson, who is a great, masterful actor at times, he is amazing. And in this film, he's good. He's the only one actually that's not bad in the film. So there you go. If Mel Gibson wasn't in this film playing Max, wow, I would have hated it even more. I think if it was based on the first half of the film, as I say, it would have been very bad for me. And the second half was definitely better, and you had some decent moments in this. The last 10 minutes, kind of cool ending as well. So I'd have to say it's weak overall, but yes, this is praised as one of the best action films of all time as well. Let's focus on the action quickly. Even then, underwhelming by best of all time standards. No way for me, is this personally one of the best action films. I think overall it's decent action overall. Considering everything, because there's some bits that aren't that good, a bit lifeless actually. A bit messy. Some bits are good. There's maybe one scene that was very good, kind of in the opening 10 minutes. One of them stunts. The stunt work is impressive. And you've got a bit where Mel Gibson shoots someone near the end, off the bike. That was good, but really apart from that, very underwhelming. In terms of one of the best action films ever made. I thought it was standard fare really. And that's just me. I'm not a hipster, guys. Everyone. I'm really not trying to be different here, but I don't see it. I don't see this being one of the best action films. Mad Max Fury Road, yeah, that's more like it. And I think that's not quite in my top 25 action films, but it's not far off that. This film, is certainly not. A lot of films, that I've seen in the last couple of months even that are not action films, but have much better action than this. So it's not anything close to that for me. I think the cinematography overall was a mixed bag. It had some decent visuals in it. Some of the framing was good. But overall, it just didn't really interest me visually. I think the locations weren't, this isn't, at all what I thought it would be as well. It's not, doesn't feel like a kind of sci-fi film at all. It's just your post-apocalyptic, really. Apart from the way that everyone looks, this just seems, kind of an excuse. I don't know. It just seems like everyone's just dirty in the film. That's about as sci-fi as it gets, post-apocalyptic, dirty and depressing. So, I can't really praise that. The atmosphere wasn't really there. And, just overall, visually, not that impressive. And, just overall in this film, the characters, that's the thing. Most of the, characters in this film are awful. They're just so... Most people act in this film, are either screaming, and kind of spitting, and... just being mental, they're just so bizarre in this film, and it's not, as I say, it's not meant to be, too far ahead in the future. So if it doesn't even warrant that, the fact that everyone is just completely insane in this film, there's struggles, and there's famine and stuff like that. The themes that it goes for in this film, lack of resources, but it's a bit too far for me, and again, it's not done well, over the top or anything. It's not. There's films that can be done over the top, but don't go too far enough to be stupid. This one just is for me. I got really annoyed. I didn't connect with people just shouting and kind of making stupid faces all the time, and just doing off-tone moments. Always breaks tone, constantly in the first half especially. Second half, it was a much more kind of focused and tonally consistent film. But even then, it was still not impressive for me. I didn't like it. The second half, it was definitely better, and it wasn't bad. I wouldn't say consistently. The whole second half of the film wasn't quite bad, but the rest of the film before that was. And even then, it did have a lot of boring moments, flat, just cheesy moments as well. I don't think the romance in the film was that good at all. Very cheesy and basic. But at least it had somewhat of humanity with the family scenes. With Mel Gibson. I can slightly praise that. And yeah, just some of the action, as I say. Some of the cinematography and the editing is decent, but yeah, even then a bit underwhelming for what I was expecting. The direction in the first half for me is poor. The second half, still, nothing to speak of. Probably under average, but yeah, I think I'd probably wrap up pretty soon. But Mel Gibson I think gave a decent performance. I'll praise that. The character of Max, came into his own a bit in the second half of the film, but the script in this film as well was really really bad stuff, and the dialogue, delivery, the line delivery from a lot of the actors was just dreadful. I know this didn't have a big budget, but no excuse. Come on, it's not hard to act to a level that isn't just disgraceful. It's so off-putting. And most of the lines of dialogue, the way people said them, it's just it's just no excuse there. I'm not even going to defend that. It's really just is. Yeah, I just don't like the film, and I'm in the minority, of course. And hopefully, Road Warrior is better. I love Fury Road. That is a stunning film. It's pretty much, it is a perfect film. I have no flaws with that film. It's a masterpiece. I think it's not quite in my top 200 films, but it is on my list of 500 favourites. Top 250 at the moment, probably top 300 definitely. And it's a stunning film and a great action film, monumental action film. This one just isn't. It's not that good for me. It really isn't. I think it's a weak film. And I didn't expect to love this one, but I just didn't expect to hate it, and I almost did overall. Most of the time I did, in the first half of the film I despised it, I really just didn't like it at all. It slightly got a bit better and stuff second half, but really this for me, Mad Max is a weak film. I'd have to give it a 42%. Yeah, that's right. I've given Mad Max, a 42%. It's one of them films, like Halloween, the original, or just a couple of films, that I find, very, very highly acclaimed. People love them, but just not personally for me. I guess not everyone can love every popular film. It's just that's what it is, and I'm not gonna feel bad. I really wanted to love it though. I wanted to love this trilogy. I feel bad about just getting. I got quite hyped for the potential, and I wanted to, love this film. I didn't like it. I almost hated it actually. Still, despite the second half picking up, definitely. After the first half was just dreadful, really for me mostly. It's a shame. I think I'm not trying to be different. It's just not a good film for me. Let alone one of the best action films. It's it's not good for me, and I have flaws with pretty much every department. The only good performance was Mel Gibson for me. The characters are either one note or just dreadful. People just run around, scream. Just generic kind of biker gang. It's just bizarre. Off tone all the time. Very very campy. In the worst ways actually. Not enjoyable camp. And there's not a single moment really I laughed intentionally. And it just I just didn't like the film. I think it's a very dirty film. In a bad way. It's depressing. Again in a bad way. And just didn't make me. It didn't compel me. The overall narrative was pretty weak until the last half an hour probably. I would say. At least some motivations and some sort of progression and emotion somewhat. Kicked in a little bit. Some decent visuals. Some decent action, as I say. And Mel Gibson again. I've not really seen him give a bad performance. But yes, Mad Max for me is a weak film, 42%. That is a low score from me. And I just don't. I don't think. I might not even like the second one. And I hope I do. But for me, it's just one of them films. One of the rare films that I feel a lot differently to what a lot of people do. I am in the minority here, but I gave it a try, and I just didn't like it. And it's not like I don't like action films, or what Mad Max can be. Yeah, just post-apocalyptic films. I do like a lot of them actually, and yeah, it's just a case of on this occasion, in terms of the tone, the overall narrative, the characters, the structure of it, and just the feel of it, and the budget and everything just didn't work for me overall. And yeah, weak film, not quite an awful film overall, but the first half was, and yeah, hopefully I can say that one of these films I will like. Surely the third one's not worse. But yes, hopefully, of course, the Road Warrior, I can say I like, and I really hope I do. And I'll be honest if I don't. I'll review that, at some point. But for me, unfortunately, very very disappointing. One of the most disappointing films I've ever seen. It's a shame, but yeah, no, I've built this up for years. I've had it sealed, and unfortunately, I didn't like it. But of course, loads of people do, and it's a popular film, and that's great. But for me, I don't quite connect with it as much as a lot of people do. So yeah, thanks for watching my review.